I think sometimes, yeah, as we've been talking about, people are put in a situation where, for whatever reason, I think it could be that they're not happy in their job and they need to consider leaving. And I love the way you talk about this in the Stay or Go chapter. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Deepa?
Yeah, I mean, that's originally what the whole book was going to be. It was going to be a whole book on Stay or Go. And my agent, who's a very well-known agent, was like, you can't write a book on just on Stay or Go, right? Encouraging everybody to go. That's not a good book. Although with a Great Resignation, maybe that would have been a good book. But yeah, I talk about the things that you should do if you stay, and like how to evaluate whether a culture is friendly to you. And then also what to do if you go, because a lot of people are going, and there are ways to go and also honor like the leaving process. So for example, a lot of women who go start their own businesses have shared with me their biggest clients are their former companies. And so, not ending and setting everything ablaze is also like, you take your relationships with you, you take your history with you, you take your reputation with you in good and bad ways. And so recognizing that and also exiting places in the right way is also part of it. It's also this guide of how do you figure out where to go? Because a lot of cultures are the same. So if you're going to go, here's some questions to ask yourself. Here's some things to think about. Here's how you do the due diligence, because although there's a lot of people hiring right now, there's also a lot of people moving and calling me in 6 months saying they're not any happier at their new place, right? A lot of senior women are calling me saying that I was promised all these things. Here I am 6 months in a role, and none of those things have come to fruition. So it's almost all those things. How do you figure out if you should stay? How do you like leave well? And what do you think about? And then also, how do you figure out and evaluate a culture to figure out if it's going to be healthy for you?
No, and I think that's a great point. The whole idea, you really need to think about, what are you trying to get from going? It could be that if you stay in your current role, maybe you might be able to, especially look, if people are leaving, maybe you might be able to work it in a slightly different way. Because I always believe, look, unless things are really bad where you are, try and see, is there a way of trying to rework your situation? Because I don't think, what how it is when you're being courted by companies, they'll promise you the world. And obviously hopefully you'll get paid a bit more, but there are all these other things they'll say, which may or may not be completely accurate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I say that it usually takes 6 months to a year to get settled in a new company. So leaving and starting over is not an easy process, especially the book talks about women of color, because you're reacclimating, right? You're finding your way again, that you're figuring out what the norms are of of your new company. And that's part of what this work is about, right? This work is really about understanding the norms that exist in your company culture and rewriting the ones that don't work for all of us and understanding the ones that do, so that you can play within those rules, right? And so, but every company has a culture, and that's really what we're trying to get at the heart. Like, what's important, what's valued, what's seen as successful, what is punished, what do we take actions? Like, those are all real things, and those actually differ by company, and it's interesting.
But I also think that you should never have that mindset where you can't leave, and it's to that point we were talking about, needing something and wanting something.
Yeah,
you'd never be afraid to go, even if you don't have the ideal thing to go to. Sometimes things may just not be right where you are. And I've seen situations where people are in a situation which isn't great, and they're being sort of worn down day by day to some extent. And you don't want to be in a situation where, say, you get sick or you lose your confidence. And I think that makes such a difference, because say you're interviewing, I think if you're not confident and if you don't believe in yourself, then even if the ideal job comes along, you won't be in the right headspace to get it. What do you think?
I think we're in a moment where historically, and I got this advice when I was thinking of leaving, like, you can't leave until you have something better lined up. Like, that's what we tell everybody, right? Like, have your next thing lined up, and it has to be better if you're going to leave what you're leaving. I think the last 2 years, people are leaving without anything lined up, and maybe without a desire to work for a while, right? Like, it's a different world. And I think that's part of what we all have to understand. And there is no shame in leaving. One of the most interesting things is when I announced my leaving on LinkedIn, I knew I had a lot of people that from the company that would watch and other things. I had so many private messages from Indian people saying to me, men and women, saying to me, like, how did you tell your parents you were leaving? There must have been shame or concern or all these things around leaving. Right. And so it's just so interesting. So I think that we all have such history and such baggage around leaving and what we should do versus what we want to do and all of that stuff that really has to be unpacked. But yeah, I don't think it's good advice anymore to say you have to have the next best thing lined up and you have to have bigger and better. Like I don't think that's true. I think if a culture is not working for you and you know it's taking from you and it's depleting from you, it's almost better to get out, to get to a better place. And then to your point, to go interview in a very different mindset. Because if you take that woundedness to your interview, that's not going to help you or set you up for success. So I think we're also in a phase where people are in a very different way, focused on well-being and trauma and, you know, all of the, like a conversation about that we've never had before in relation to work. That was always a separate thing. You didn't talk about that at work. And I think we're in a moment where people are taking care of themselves in a different, just starting to have that discussion, but needing to.